Are you a business owner or employee who needs to network but is terrified of walking into a room full of people you don't know? Are you afraid of being left out of conversations or being awkward in the conversations you do have? Your tour guide, Faithann, is here to walk alongside you through the networking terrain, offering tips and tricks to network with ease. She'll also bring insightful interviews with successful business owners who have used networking to expand their businesses. Building relationships is the heart of networking, and generosity is the cruise ship that will navigate you toward those important relationships for your business or career. Grab your sunscreen and suitcase. Faithann is ready. Are you?
Hello there, and welcome to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast. I'm glad you found the show. Networking is providing opportunities for others that they would not have except for you, so that you have standing to ask for opportunities from people when you need them. How do we create opportunities for others, and how do we ask for those same opportunities? Well, that's what this podcast is all about. It's what I'm here for. Let's dive into episode 40. Welcome to this episode of the Networkers Tour Guide podcast. This is a really special episode for me because I'm inviting co-owner of Window Cleaning Plus and my husband, Dave. Dave, thank you for saying yes to coming on the Networkers Tour Guide podcast.
Faithann, it's almost like I didn't even have a choice. You know, I live with you, and if I say no, then that would cause problems. Possibly.
Right.
Probably not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, your yes was pretty quick, so I don't feel too bad.
Yeah. It's. I think it's going to be interesting and fun, and we'll just see how it works out.
Dave, you are my husband and life partner and business partner. We both own Window Cleaning Plus, and I wanted the listeners to have a perspective of how we together have served our clients, with me doing the networking and you coming in after the relationship has been built and actually going to the home and doing the window cleaning, and some things that you've learned from the networking perspective after being in a client's home that you didn't know, because you're not networking. You're doing the work and doing many, many things, keeping the equipment running, ordering the materials and ordering supplies, and I'm doing the networking. So my first question is, how did you feel when I first came to you and said, there's this thing called Business Network International, and it's a weekly meeting, and I want to be a part of it?
I think what I remember is back during the start of our business, I was really leery about the cost of doing business. And part of that was the cost of joining BNI. But it was a pretty easy sell on me that you visited a meeting. And just because you visited before you even joined, we got, I think, 2 jobs out of it. And the 2 jobs that we received based on, and we didn't just the regular pricing that we would have given anybody, those 2 jobs paid for the first year of BNI. So, and I think back then, what, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, that was like,
It was in 2018. That's when I officially became a member, in February of 2018.
Okay. So we're looking at what, 7 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 jobs back then, the 2 jobs that we bid on, they were around $300, $350 a piece. Well, back then, that's what BNI cost for the first year, was about, I think it was $700, $800, something like that, which is it's a pretty good amount of money to have to pay. But you simply visit one time, or maybe it was twice, and that's paid for now. So it's like anything on top of that is just gravy, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You were new at networking, but you've turned into what you are now, and you go to networking events every other day. So, and you've got this going. So it was a pretty easy decision when it was put in those terms. Because when you're new in business and dreaming about business or being in business for yourself, you're not really thinking about all the cost that's involved. Sure, you're going to have to buy tools, you're going to have to buy certain things, and there's cost, but you don't think of all the things on the back end, the insurances, the workman's comp. The workman's comp, even though all of your family works for you and you're exempt, but you still have to pay workman's comp. You still have to pay money towards that. So in the early days, my attitude towards it was, man, I'm just being charged left and right. I just need to be able to make the money, and they want to take it. Once you grow in your business, that's not nearly as bothersome to you because it's just a part of the doing business, just like a truck payment or just like insurance. You have to kind of go along to get along. And the networking portion of it was easier than everything else, because it proved to me within the first time that you joined, I'm like, there's something to this.
Yes, I was also pleasantly surprised at how quickly people started referring us and using us. And you know that those early referrals from BNI were mainly residential. And I talk about that when I tell the story of how referrals or networking saved our business, because we had to say yes to jobs that we normally wouldn't say yes to if it were just an inquiry on our website. But when you're talking to a real person and you feel like you've been given the jersey, you can't say no. And so if you can recall, would you talk just a little bit about that very first job that we did with me being an actual member, just knowing that that was like one of my referrals? You know, I said, hey, we have this referral, and we were both a little bit leery about it because it was so much bigger than we were used to. Can you talk a little bit about your willingness to do it, even though it was beyond what you normally were comfortable with?
Yeah, I remember getting that first job. It was a very large house. And when we bought the business, it was a commercial route. And it may have had, I think we're still doing, 11 years later, we're still taking care of one of our customers that was from that very first, when we bought it in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
We're still going out to her place and taking care of her. The residential jobs, it was a lot more worrisome, or there was a lot more put onto it because it's a person's home. It's not a storefront. It's not the people that I'm running into are not the employees who probably don't care very much.
Mm-hmm.
These are people's homes, and that's their castle. So in doing this first major job from the networking standpoint, there was a lot riding on it because he sees you every week, and vice versa. You see each other every week. And if for some reason I do a really bad job, then that's going to reflect and you're going to hear about it. So there was that added pressure as well. But from what I remember, and it was a number of years ago, he had only good things to say about you. He probably didn't know you very well, but from what he did know, he knew that you were serious and that you were a pleasure to be around every week,
Mm-hmm.
at a networking meeting, that you took it seriously.
I did. I took it very, very, very seriously. And I remember being even too scared the next week to even ask him how it went. I mean, that's how scary this first job as an official member, this very first referral was for both of us. And so he didn't say anything to me and I didn't say anything to him. But then 2 weeks later, it came time for the testimonials, which BNI has dedicated time in their meetings for testimonials. And he stood up and gave me a testimonial. And I was so happy. I was so relieved. Like, okay, it went well. This is actually going to be a thing. And then, of course, just saying yes when you really want to say no is let us grow. Let us grow the business, which I'm so grateful for. And I know you are too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let me ask you, sometimes you'll come home and from a residential job, and I'll say, how did it go? And you'll say, oh, they just love you. And I'm not really asking you to talk a little bit more about this part of it because I want to hear praise. What I'm really after is for those people who are in the trades, especially, who wonder if they have time for networking, I just want to give you all the encouragement to say it's wonderful to build a relationship first and then have your team go out and prove what you've been saying. It can't always be that way. I mean, sometimes you are going to have the Google searches and they're going to come and they're going to want your service and they've never met you. But sometimes it's really fun to go serve a client that you have met in networking. So talk a little bit about those people that have become clients that knew me first, and then you show up, do a fantastic job for them, and the feedback that they give you.
Yeah, when I go, and I've never, a majority of these people, obviously for the first time, for instance, I've never met them. So they're only going on what they know of you. They find out that I'm married to you, or they finally meet me because they've known you for months or maybe even more than that. And they have nothing but good things to say. Whether or not that's just because now they're dealing with your husband and they feel compelled to say that, that might be a part of it. But more than likely, it's because of the amount of time that you spend with people, whether it's just at the weekly meetings or extra events that or other things that you attend, that they also are there. They just get to know you over time, and obviously it's there's a relationship that's built. I find that it does make it a lot easier because they know you, they've known you for months or years, and it's almost like they're really comfortable with me, a stranger, being in their home, or my helper, your son.
Mm-hmm.
They know that we are related to you in various ways, and that puts them at ease. When we had Devin with us, who is not, no relation to either of us, just an employee. He was a good employee, and they seemed very comfortable with that aspect as well. It was almost as if we were all just very welcomed to come out and do the job, because these folks, whomever they might be. That feeling of still needing to do a great job is there, but it is a lot more comfortable knowing that they've known you for X amount of time, and there's just a comfort level, as opposed to just somebody they look up on Google, or somebody that comes in off the street to perform work. There's a connection, and that connection does make a difference.
And that's what networking is all about, is connecting and is putting a friendly person to the face of a business or to the name of a business. And whenever we get recommended online in Facebook groups, on Facebook pages, usually it's Faithann. It's not Window Cleaning Plus. They'll say you should talk to Faithann. And so, again, I'm not trying to hog any attention, but it is the natural course of how relationships start and sustain themselves. Is they know me, and so by extension, they know you as well. And then when you show up with either Caleb, our son, or another employee, and just knock their socks off with the service and the friendliness that you exhibit, and the politeness and the care for their home and their things, it just has this complete picture that they get to experience, which networking can give you. And that's when you get these cheerleaders and fans who are like, you got to use Faithann, you got to use Window Cleaning Plus.
Hi, listeners. Do you struggle when it comes time to deliver your introduction or pitch at your networking meetings? Faithann has put together the 8 tips she uses to make her introduction stand out when she networks. And now you can use them too. Imagine walking into your next event with confidence, knowing exactly how to stand out so people actually remember you. These tips are designed to spark your creativity so you can bring more personality, energy, and originality into your introduction, helping you feel more confident and making it easier for people to connect with you. Grab your free copy of 8 Ways to Make Your Introduction Stand Out by clicking the link in the show notes and download it today.
BNI specifically after they've met you, the testimonials that I hear also include you and Caleb and any other employees. So they'll say things like, we hired Window Cleaning Plus, and Faithann's employees, Faithann's husband, were so kind, and they were polite, and I just really appreciate that. So it just paints this huge, big picture of a company that cares about its clients, and it can start with networking. So as we wrap this up, well, I have a couple more final questions, and this question is just thinking about a service-based business. So you can take the networking component out of it, but just you've been in business for a long time, and you know a few things. What would you say to that new window cleaner? Apart from networking, what's the thing that he should be real concerned with to build rapport with his customers as he's walking in and about to do a job?
As far as somebody going into the home for the first time to a new customer, they're new in business, they're going to feel really, they're not going to have much confidence. And that affected me. And it maybe a couple of years went by to where I remember where I was and who I talked to. And I remember the fact that, I came home and I told you, I was able to answer questions confidently for the homeowner, where before I just lacked the confidence in letting them know how the job was going to go or what the issue was. And that takes time. I bought the route, or we bought the route, with about 100 commercial accounts and very few homes. Like I said earlier, 2 at the most. And now it's about maybe 50-50, or maybe more home owners, more residential customers outnumber the commercial accounts. And when going to a home, if you have to fake it until you make it, that's what I did for a couple of years. Let your personality come out, depending on what your personality is like. Because my personality away from work and away from going to a home is way different than it is at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say be on your absolute best behavior. And, if you're having a bad day, remember that cameras are everywhere. Microphones are everywhere inside the cameras. You just have to be on your best behavior and do right by the customer. Don't take any shortcuts.
Exactly. And Dave, I just remembered that you are the one that really helped me realize that. There was a few years when we were actually working together. I was out on the route, except for Wednesdays, because that was my networking day, and I protected that day. We protected that day for me. But man, you were really helpful, because I would forget that there are cameras. So, I'm exasperated, I'm frustrated, and you would just kind of look at me and look up at the camera, or you might, if we were out in the truck together, you might remind me, they have cameras, Faithann, and then you've told our staff, you've told them many times, just assume you're being watched at all times. And that's a great tip for any trades person who's just starting out. You need to make that assumption. You're being watched, because when that homeowner, if they see any frustration on your face, either after the job or before the job or during the job, that trust just plummets. And now they're going to look very carefully at everything you did. If they see that you're like taking out your frustration on their property.
Yeah. And I grew up, and it's just part of my nature, and not all people are like this, but I had a little bit of a temper growing up. And obviously that all too well, but I've worked on that, and I've in my advanced age of in my late 40s and early 50s, I don't have time for that. I get a little fired up every now and then about certain things, but when your hose is kinked, or your hose is like my hose, the hose that I'm pulling around a house, when it gets caught on something, it's frustrating. But I've turned it into, well, I get to get more steps in. I just get to get a little bit more exercise. And it's frustrating, but instead of letting it show on your face, just, smile and move on. I remember specifically one house that we had done. I think it was being sold. I think they were moving, but they said that they had a previous window cleaner come out. They were using us because on their cameras, they were hearing some things that were being said by the employees about the female homeowner. The things being said were not necessarily about her personality, but were about her looks. That's why they didn't have them back out to their home. Because even though you might have thoughts, you can't express those thoughts out loud to yourself in somebody's home.
Exactly.
It's a serious thing. And I don't want to harp on it too much, but as a person, as a provider of a service, that I would say is the biggest thing to somebody new getting started out. Whether you, like me, I worked in insurance before doing this. I worked in an office setting. Treat it like that. You can't be unprofessional and expect to succeed over time.
Exactly. As we wrap this up, I want to just thank you for the continuity. So when they meet me at a networking event and they have a good feeling about how they have interacted with me, it follows through when they see you and Caleb or whoever you have with you. And that level of service is not any different than their first impression of me. And it's so helpful to know that, we're working together on all sides of a customer experience so that the customer can get the clean windows that they want and so that we can provide for our family. And I want to thank you, Dave, for your dedication to our family and to this business.
Well, you're quite welcome. It's my job. And one last thing I would say is that I'm surprised quite a bit. Maybe it's just your name that people recognize. Most people have a problem with pronouncing your name correctly in some cases. But I was at a house the other day that I think we've only been out there once or twice. And they're talking about, yeah, I talked to Faithann and she said, yeah, this, that, whatever, kind of like they know you. And I don't think I've ever met this person the other day that I was at their home, but they talk like they know you.
Mm-hmm.
So I run into that quite a bit where they literally talk about you like they know you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's either through networking or just the back and forth, reaching out, keeping in communication with the customer about our service, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, things of that nature. I find that it just I get taken aback because they're talking about you like they know you. So that's something that I experience that you don't, but
Mm-hmm. I love it. I mean, it just makes me so happy. It makes my heart happy that they feel that comfortability with me and then they get to feel it with you. And they just get to have a great experience and we get to support our family. And, I think we have both said that as far as both of our professional lives, Window Cleaning Plus has been the very best thing that has happened to us and that we've built.
Yeah, we're blessed by it because it's the job that I've had the longest that I have still not gotten bored with, upset, or frustrated with, tired of. Every day I don't get up and think to myself, oh, I got to go clean X amount of windows again today. It's almost like an adventure. The only thing that I have issues with is trying to figure out how to get screens out at every house, because some are easy and some are a puzzle. So that's the only frustration I think that I've got with it is just, trying to figure out each home and just how the best way of getting the job done. The main thing that I really like that I always try to ask people is, how does it look?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need sunglasses now inside? How are they looking? However I word it. And when they are really, really happy that they made the choice to get their windows cleaned, when they say, I don't understand why I haven't done this sooner. What's that stuff that you get like a dopamine hit?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's like a dopamine hit for me because we had everything to do with that.
Right.
And in some cases, we're taking 10 years, 20 years of dirt off windows and making things look almost brand new for people. And
Right.
they're happy, and that makes me happy. So
Right. It thrills me, and it just is all the good things, and it makes all the hard things worth it. And I'll tell you what, the worst part of it for me, for Window Cleaning Plus, in the role that I'm serving right now, is rain. That's the worst part, is when there's days and days of rain, and all I'm thinking is, how are my scheduler and I going to put this back together again, because it's crumbling. But other than that, I mean, it's been a joy to do this together.
Yeah, it has. It's been hard at times. This year's been pretty terrible as far as rain is concerned, but we've finally gotten to summer, so things should be getting easier.
Right. Well, thank you very much again, Dave. And listeners, as you go and network, if you're in the trades and you have a situation where you have a team or you have a spouse and one of you can go and network and the other can service the jobs, just work together and realize that the job that each of you are doing affects the job that the other one is doing, and see if you can, through networking and through great customer service, really give your business the success and the brand awareness that you deserve.
You've been listening to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast with Faithann Basor. Share this episode with a friend, and be sure to come back next week for more networking tips and tricks from the Networkers Tour Guide.